This episode of the Citadel Cafe is brought to you by listeners like you. Visit patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe to find out how you can become a patron and help make this show possible. This is the Citadel Cafe, episode number 377 for Thursday, October 8th, 2020. My name is Joel Duggan, and the Citadel Cafe is where my friends and I hang out to talk about the geeky stuff that we are into. Joining me this week, Megan Townsend is back. You can find her at Megan Townsend on all the social media that matters, including Twitch, where she is currently streaming Spiritfarer, correct?
Correct. Hi.
I blanked on that name. I was going to say No Man's Sky. It's like, that's not what Megan's streaming. That's what I'm streaming.
No.
So,
yeah, Spiritfarer.
Yeah, and you did a couple of streams over the week since we talked about Spiritfarer so much on the podcast last week. And I thought I'd ask, like, how are things progressing? Like, has the story unfolded in any way?
Well, like, the story is very simple. So you're just, finding spirits and kind of learning about them a little bit. And the whole mission is to, like, ferry them off into into the afterlife, essentially.
So does the game generate new spirits all the time? Like, so it's not necessarily like a linear story. You're going to have like constant offshoots and stuff?
I think there's a set number of spirits, but I haven't found them all yet. So I have on my boat right now, I currently have some. The first, we let the first one go. I think we let her go Thursday night, and that was very sad. Like, she kind of goes through like a, they all teach you some things. They all teach you some skills. They all, will, ask for a particular thing. So, like, in the case of Gwen, he was the first spirit that you find. She's your childhood friend, I guess, like, in your conversations, you figure out that you spent a lot of time with her. So you kind of all, like, right away, you get this really cozy feeling from her. She's a little bit standoffish at times, but, like, I think she's a character with a strong personality. So, it's like, they all have very, very distinct personalities, which is nice. And they all like different foods. So you have to, like, talk to them and, like, offer, because they all get hungry. So you have to offer them food, and then, like, they'll let you know, oh, I can't have this. Oh, no, I don't like that. Or this is my favorite. So Gwen's favorite thing on my game was coffee. She really likes black coffee. Nice. That was just her thing. So whenever, like, and that would be like, she'd just have that and she'd be happy for the day. And then you can give them hugs every once in a while. And sometimes they say no thanks, and other times they're just like, yeah, let's hug it out. But yeah, we let her go. She asked to leave on Tuesday night, I think. And I think we had a bit of a sad stream end. We cried a little bit, we laughed a little bit. It's really beautiful. Like, it's a really gentle, like, one of the in the trailer of the game, it's like, you have to learn how to say goodbye, and it's sad, but it's also happy. Mm-hmm. So it's very bittersweet. So that was a very, it's sad that she's not there anymore, but, like, her house stays there, and it's just, I don't know, because it's like, she asks you, she's like, can you take me to this place? Like, I'm ready to go. And I don't know, it's really nice. So Gwen's gone, and I found 2 other spirits in the last 2 streams that I did. I think I found 2 of them the last one I did, which was on Tuesday. And one of them we found out is, like, one of them is your uncle. His name is Atul, Atul, and he is, talking about, things that he did in his life, and he wants to, like, experience food for the last time. So, like, he really, really wanted pork chops, and now this big thing that he keeps wanting is fried chicken, so which I'm trying to find for him still. I don't know where to find it yet. He kind of mentioned his daughter, and kind of got sad because he's like, I can't remember her face anymore. And then he just got sad. He's like, anyway, I gotta go take a break. I'm gonna go do something else, because he just got really sad, and he just didn't want to make you sad. And it's like, oh, this is really emotional. So it's you're learning more about the characters, and you're like, you become very attached to them. And, so I'm still getting to know 2 others. I have one named Astrid, who's, we're trying to find her husband right now, who I guess is a cad. He runs around and he flirts with other people and he breaks up marriages, and he just seems like an all around, he's a very charming man who just charms everybody. So Astrid is still like, she's mad at him, but she also wants to find him. And I think I don't know. It's a whole thing. So right now we're on a wild goose chase looking for her husband, and it's funny.
I know it's a management game. So when your uncle is looking for like fried chicken, do you then just have to go find it, or is there like a way to make it? Like, is there cooking mechanics and farming mechanics?
There is farming, there is cooking. So you make like I just built an orchard. So I'm growing fruit, cherry and apple trees now. You can do leeks and lettuce and corn and linen, and there's like so it's not all of it is like, there's a farming mechanic, and you have to water your plants every other day, and you can put things together. You can cook a few things at a time to make different recipes, and when you learn a new recipe, you have a recipe card, and you can just tap on that, and then just whatever, if you have the ingredients in your inventory, you can just take it. It took me forever to find someone selling pork in the first place. So there's some like stalls and stuff that you can find, and it took me forever to find someone who's actually selling pork. So I managed, when I find it, I was just like, pork chops, and I just bought all of them, and I know like Uncle Atul likes everything, so he doesn't dislike anything. He loves everything, but I think fried chicken and pork chops are his favorite foods. And so whenever, you can't give them the same thing all the time, like every day. So if they already had the same one thing recently, even if it's their favorite, they ask for something else. And some people have like certain dietary restrictions. Like there's a boa constrictor, I think. She's a big snake. Anyway, she's vegan. So I can't give her any meat product at all. Which I think is kind of funny, and she's really sweet too. But so it's hers is the hardest, because I have so much meat, and I have so much fish, and I have so much fruit, but like the only thing that I have that's easy to make for Summer, who's the vegan boa constrictor, I only have like rice and vegetables, and it just makes the same. It's like a grain salad, or like a veggie salad of some kind. So I'm trying to like get other vegetables and mix them together for like veggie dishes, and it's interesting. So but there's no penalty to not being able to manage anything. Like nothing burns, nothing. If you if you forget to water your plants, or you don't get to them right away, they don't die. Nothing wilts if you don't collect it right away. Yeah. So like it's really, really low risk. So it's a cozy management game. It's very cozy. It's very gentle. It's like, it's good for beginners. It's really, really hard to screw up, which is nice. Like it's very low risk. But it's just very endearing to watch and to play. And, I really like it. I'm having a really good time with it. I feel like I should branch out into other things. I'm trying to look into, I'm just trying to look at my Steam library here right now. I have some other games that I'd like to jump into, and I know a lot of people have been talking about Among Us, and I would really like to play that at some point. And I do have some people who are interested in playing it, but it's just just trying to find it, just trying to get it.
I don't remember
get people together to play.
I don't remember. Did I mention Genshin Impact to you on the podcast last week, or was that like pre-show or something?
I think that may have been pre-show. I don't remember us talking about it. Oh, maybe I don't remember, actually.
Yeah.
I know it was brought up in the last time we did a podcast.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot about it. I don't know if it's for me. It's low risk because it's free. It's just whatever time you decide to invest in it.
Yeah.
It's a JRPG anime style. Looks like Breath of the Wild, for like the Zelda game.
Right. Oh, yes, we did talk about this.
Yeah. I know we talked about it. I'm just struggling to remember whether we talked about it on the show. For people that don't know, when Megan and I catch up and do a podcast, we record about an hour of a 3-hour conversation.
Yep.
And then I struggle to remember what I said where.
Yep.
But yeah, like that looks really cool too. And especially for people on a budget, when you're trying to play new games that you might not want to go buy and try, and for something that looks like an easy entry point. I've seen mixed reviews. The articles that I read say like, yeah, it's made by a mobile developer, but it's different than most mobile games where the gotcha mechanic of them, wanting you to spend real world money on the game, the freemium price. It's not as grindy as you might think, and they found that it was pretty good. But then I'm watching streamers stream it because I wanted to see what it looks like and what it plays like. It's a lot of talking heads. Like it doesn't seem to be a lot of gameplay from what I've seen. And a lot of times I tune into somebody's stream and they're spending 20 minutes in like a menu screen augmenting abilities of characters and upping constellations, and it looks like some neat mechanics, but it's like I don't really want to menu manage for a game. But there does seem to be some combat and some exploration and things. But I think the other complaint that I hear from, again, dropping by random streams is that it seems to be grindy. But I don't know whether it's grindy because I just happen to be seeing streamers that are either one, full time, or two, just really get into games like this and have already spent 80 hours into it, even though it only came in last week, and they're hitting the grind because they spent 80 hours playing it like a full-time job. Like if you're popping in every other day for a couple hours, I don't know that you'd hit the grind. I think that maybe the articles that I've read on things like Game Radar and other publications, the people are maybe a little bit more casual, with their gameplay in terms of playing it to review it, but not playing it like it's their job. And I kind of wonder whether it would hold up. I did kind of find that it has a lot of tropes to it when I was seeing some of the story bits. I was like, I don't know if it's for me. I should maybe try it just to, spread my wings a little bit. Pun intended, there's apparently wings in the game. So when you jump from something, you have these little magical wings that kind of let you float down from places. But true to form, it's like, the people that I've seen, I'm wanting to try to find somebody that's been playing the game for the story and for the exploration, because a lot of the people I've seen, I get the impression that they're kind of min-maxing it. And so there's this beautiful town with all these roads and bridges, and people are just jumping and using these wings to float. And it's like, so you're just traversing in this straight line. So like, if you've built all these roads in this wonderful place for people to explore, and yet people are just very quickly just saying like, screw this, I just want to fly around. It's a strange way that people play games like that. But that's it's been on my short list. I'm trying to think games that I've played that are similar to Spiritfarer in terms of that cozy kind of laid back feel. Farm Together was something I didn't keep up with because it got not grindy. It was just a management game that didn't have enough rewards in it at the time. They've made a lot of changes to it since a couple of years ago. But you're planting cabbages and stuff like that, and there's no penalty. You can't grow more cabbages until you harvest the ones that you have. And you have to drive over them with a tractor, and it's a fun little cute game mechanic where instead of picking everything up, you jump up with the tractor like you're doing like a dirt bike jump, and then when the tractor hits the ground, all the cabbages kind of pop, right out of the ground. That's and into your inventory. Like it's fun stuff like that.
Because it's kind of like this, like Spiritfarer has something similar where like you have to like hold down certain buttons, you have an interaction button, and sometimes you have to hold it in order to like pull out carrots and leeks and stuff from the garden, and other times it's just like a simple button press, and you have like a magic orb that you will turn into whatever tool you need, whether it be an oar or a scythe to
nice
cut down all your corn or something. You have to hold buttons and like release them at a certain time for mining. Like you have like your you can mine ore and stuff, and so it's very easy. I think the hardest thing is there's music. There's like a music element to it that's like a timed thing. So you have you just hit the SWAD keys, and in time to like a song that you have to play, and it makes your plants grow faster. I'm terrible at it, but I swear to God, it is at least a second behind.
Right.
Like when you should push the button. So like I'll go to push the button, and it's like, well, you hit it too soon, and I'm just like, but that's on the beat. I'm doing it on the rhythm.
Yeah.
So I don't know why it's wrong, but anyway. So we raided someone the other night, and it was her first raid. We wanted to make sure we found someone who was like, had a very like small community, like just to kind of like bolster the community a little bit.
Oh, fun.
And they were great. They were really appreciative. Really, really sweet person, and they did much better than I did. And someone's like, not that this is a competition. Actually, it was Liwas. Not that this is a competition, but you're way better at this than Megan is. And I was like, listen, I get nervous, okay? I get nervous. So the beginning of my last stream, there was no one in there, which is fine. Like, people just ramping up, it doesn't really do very much. But I was doing great with the timed game thing where you have to hit the keys at a certain time to play the music, and so it doesn't make like a weird twanging sound. And I made a joke, I'm just like, maybe because there's no one in here, I haven't screwed up because there's nobody in here. And then immediately my friend Rachel she subbed, and that's when I screwed up. It was just kind of a really funny
nice.
Funny moment.
Yeah. I had a similar moment, not so much like a nervous moment, but I had a control moment on stream the other day. I've still been streaming No Man's Sky, something I talked about at length last week on the show, so I won't get into it too much here in terms of the update, but I'm still enjoying the experience overall, but I'm starting to encounter some bugs, especially with base building. So I discovered a very cool bioluminescent planet that looks just amazing at night. Really, really colorful planet. It's like Christmas lights. It's really fun. One of my favorite additions in the expansion of the game. But the game does set high expectations for base building in terms of what you can do, the way that they amplify the trailers, and the lackluster of the incredibly difficult to navigate UI, and the bug that happened to me live on stream where I lost a good 60 minutes of work. Stuff I was putting down like windows and hallways just disappeared. Just gone.
Oh no.
I didn't delete them by accident. I thought, well, maybe human error. Like I default to what did I do before I blame the game. But there was stuff that was just not there. I didn't get the materials back. They just didn't stay. And I'm just like, well, in a game that is really sandboxy and only has like the main story missions, which I'm going to get into next as a tentpole, my rewards and the goal, because people would come into the stream and ask, like, what's the goal of No Man's Sky? Like, what's the purpose of playing? And all this exploration and collecting of materials, one of the things that you can do with it is, after you're done upgrading your starships, which I've done, and upgrading my exosuit, which I'm still in the process of doing, but I'm pretty close to the end of that. I'm now investing in a base, a new base, and trying to explore some of the new modules that you can build with. And when that reward or that goal is ripped out from underneath you, it does not feel good. I almost quit. Had I not been streaming, it would have been and we're done for the day. And I would have just logged out and was like, well, this is stupid. It's very, very frustrating. So I think I'm going to relegate my base building stuff to off stream, because even when it was working and I wasn't dealing with any bugs, just going through the UI, I could just feel myself being more and more negative on stream. And it's to the point where like, this is not a new game, and this is not video games, and video game UI is not new to people. Building UI has been in games for ages, and No Man's Sky is just not addressing an elephant in the room. And they really need to, because if you're not into the story, and the story is odd, so like you kind of have to be on board for that. And if you're not playing No Man's Sky for the story, if you want to explore and build a base and build up your fleet and do all that kind of stuff, the one reward, or one of the rewards that you get, is building a really cool base. Well, you can't do that.
Sorry.
So it's one of those things where it's just not the best. And I've just decided, like, I can feel myself being more negative about it on stream. And then, okay, well, I just won't do that on stream. I'll enjoy the other stuff. We did explore some things. We saw some new, mechanical life forms and things like that. So I spent the last hour doing something more fun. But I think I will just establish small outposts. I think the idea of building a big fun base is just like, nope, I should just build one building, prefab, plop it on the ground, teleporter, a little bit of a place to come in from out of the bad weather when it happens, and a landing pad, and call it done. I'm no longer investing my time in big bases. The thing that I have now, which I didn't have in February when I first started getting into the game, is a frigate, which is essentially a large starship that you can have a base inside of. And so it's not as cool because it's not as customizable, but it does give you all the same function as a base on a planet, except for it can travel with you. So I think it's going to be better for me to invest that as home base, and then just for when I want to go to a planet, just have it be a single landing pad and a pod, and call it done. I'm not really going to invest a lot if it's going to be this finicky. So that's been disappointing, which sucks, because I'm remembering some of the tedium. unnecessary stuff like stairs and ladders, space station layout, and the constant pirate threat when you enter space with valuables. It's not if, it's always. You always get attacked. And then you're like, well, I'm here to explore, but now I'm just spending the next 10 minutes dogfighting, which I don't want to do. It's not hard anymore because I have a decent fighter starship, but it's just tedious. Like, it should give me more of an evasion technique. It should give me more of a, or at least clue me in as to why it's happening. It just seems to be this repetitive pattern. And then the other things that really take a long time, like you enter in your frigate and you have to walk up these long stairs, this long hallway before you can get to your main room. It's a sci-fi. Why is there not an elevator? Let alone, how am I not beaming directly aboard my ship? Like, it's just, there seems like, why are there stairs? And it's this obtusely long staircase that just adds. It sounds silly, but it adds like 15, 20 seconds to you coming home to your base. But when you start to do that 6, 8, 10 times in an hour as you're going back and forth and returning missions, it's boring. Like, it really gets dull. And so that kind of stuff is starting to show. So I'm probably going to be dialing back my No Man's Sky. I'm still enjoying it, but I think that I just have to say, like, I have to plan better, I think, what I want to do. Like, what's fun on stream is like, let's go find a new star system and explore new planets, because you never know what the heck's going to happen. That stuff is always interesting at the very least, if not fun, when you discover like Christmas Lights Planet. Like, that kind of stuff is cool. But so that's been kind of what's been dominating my stream. I do have the new processor actually for my computer. I have not installed it because I don't know how. So I'm going to be working on that. It's not actually at the house yet. It's at the post office. I have to go pick it up. But so that's in. Right. So that's good. I'm hoping that will lead to more Minecraft, because I tried to play Minecraft the other day just on my own for 30 minutes to try to finish up a project, and I was getting dizzy just trying to do that. It's like, all right, this is really.
I've been really wanting to get back into Minecraft again, but I feel like because there's been so many updates and I don't know where anything is anymore. Like, there's so many, like, it's just been built up so much. The server's just gotten so big, and I don't know where to find. I'm realizing that Minecraft doesn't stress me out, but what stresses me out is trying to find the resources I need to do what I want.
Right.
And, knowing how to make stuff. And I find that really, really, like, a lot to know. And I know that you have, like, recipe books and things like that, but, like, there doesn't seem to be an easy way to find what you need to make something.
No, and I think and that's a fault of a game that's been around for so long, that the community and the wiki, support around it is just so strong that people just look in game for 10 seconds, can't find it, and they go ask somebody, whether that's, our Discord chat, whether it's, the Citadel channel or a public Minecraft channel, or if you're just going on the web and Googling it on, trying to find something on Reddit.
My thing is, though, I don't want to do that every 2 seconds.
No, neither did I.
And that would be my problem, right? And that would be my thing. I would be literally looking for stuff every single second.
Yeah.
Because I understand the concept of Minecraft, but most of the Minecraft that I've played has been creative Minecraft. So I like to build stuff.
Yeah.
It's doing the resource management and the survival aspect that I think I'm having a harder time with. And I just lost a bunch of stuff. I fell off of a cliff and I fell into fire. So a lot of my stuff is now gone.
That's never fun.
I don't think I have my my pickaxe anymore.
That's always a pain. Even at my stage of the game, when that happens, I died on stream before, and I had the stuff, but it's just like, bah, I just don't want to go get all decked out again because I don't need to right now, and it definitely puts a crimp in your plans. It's like somebody the other day was relaying a story about No Man's Sky on stream, and they had died in one of these dogfights, and they lost their ship, and they're just like, that didn't feel good. It's like, I know that there has to be some penalty for dying in games, but like losing the ship, that was not communicated to me. Like, that was not, there was no warning about that. And so when you've invested all this time and energy and money into something and it just goes away permanently, that's a pain. And I think too with Minecraft, like, obviously I take a little bit for granted because I do a weekly podcast about it on the Spawn Chunks. And so I'm kind of steeped in the latest and know how all these things are made. And, I've been on the server for a while. But one of the nice things about the server, in terms of the one that you and I play on, is that there are a lot of community farms and a lot of those resources exist. You just have to go get them at the relative farms. Like Prismarine, for example. Like, if you want something like that from the Guardian farm, that's there. It's a public farm. Like, Maccass and I built it, and it's there for people to use, because a lot of the people that play on the server are adults with jobs, and we don't have the time to go grind, and find something. And I think that's the thing too, is like maybe for you in terms of like, not wanting to look something up in Minecraft every 2 seconds, maybe play off stream for an hour and just have all those questions at the ready and just pop them into like the Discord, or myself or Alistair or Cosmic or whoever can help you out. And then that way, when you're on stream, you're not just constantly stopping and looking things up, or set that expectation when you're streaming. And that way people know that you're just like, this is going to be slow, or invite the backseat gaming. Dangerous thing with Minecraft. But if you want people in the chat to tell you how to build this or how to find that, then it might save you some time too.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you for that. I'll give that another go.
Well, speaking of sleuthing to the bottom of Minecraft recipes, both Megan and I watched Enola Holmes on Netflix over the last week, and we're going to get into this and talk about it here on the show. Recommended by my friend Hannah. I think you know Hannah as well, from our Halcon days, and also Hannah plays on the server with us. So thanks for that. I really appreciate the recommendation, because I really enjoyed this film. We will get into some spoilers later, but we're going to talk about it spoiler-free for the start, which I think I can do without getting in it, because it's a mystery. You don't want to spoil the end mystery. But yeah, Enola Holmes is on Netflix right now, and starring Millie Bobby Brown as Enola Holmes, Henry Cavill as Sherlock Holmes, Sam Claflin as Minecraft Holmes, and Helena Bonham Carter as Eudora Holmes, and Louis Partridge as Lord Tewksbury. I had a blast with this. Just initial impressions. I'm not sure whether you enjoyed it as much as I did, but I just thought, in all the doom and gloom that's in media these days, if I see one more Amazon advertisement for Utopia, I'm already not interested in it, but they're annoying me with how often they're advertising it. Like this, it was just a fun film. It was just fun. And
yeah, it was fun.
Had some important points that they didn't beat you over the head with, but they made sure that it was serious when it needed to be serious, and that it was lighthearted and, kind of like I want to say that it was probably, I guess, a teen drama, like it's aimed at like that kind of an audience. But I really liked it. Like, what were your first impressions?
I'm going to have to go back and watch it again, because I'm going to admit I was very tired when I watched it. So right. I think I fell asleep for a second, not because I didn't like it, but just because I was just so sleepy.
Tired, yeah.
I loved the vibe of it. I liked the atmosphere around it. I liked how quirky Enola was. Mm-hmm. First of all, the name Enola is just a cool name. Anyway. But like I liked the I liked the kind of fun rompy vibe to it. There were some things I got confused about, but I think again that's because I fell asleep. So maybe you can explain some things to me. But
sure.
There was why certain people were after her and whatnot, and we can get into that later. But I really liked it. I really enjoyed Henry Cavill as Sherlock.
Me too.
He was very, like, most Sherlocks that I see are like, Sherlock Holmes is a brilliant person in his own right, but most of the Sherlock that a lot of people are aware of, they usually think Robert Downey Jr. in the Sherlock Holmes movies. Mm-hmm. They think Benedict Cumberbatch, or they think I don't even know who plays him in Elementary with Lucy Liu as Jane Watson.
Oh, I don't remember.
I don't remember his name either, but he's often portrayed as very eccentric and very almost mad in a way, like mad genius sort of mentality. And this, like Cavill's perspective of or portrayal, I should say, of Sherlock is it's much quieter. And I think they did that on purpose, because I think Enola is meant to be the bit more kooky one, because she's a girl who's raised by her single mom, and her single mom taught her not normal ladylike things of the time. She taught her how to, paint, which is nice, but she also taught her how to fight and how to start fires and play tennis in the house, and like some fun stuff like that. So I definitely feel like his Sherlock was much more understated, but he was much more sympathetic, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I found that two things about both Cavill, and I don't know Claflin. I'm not sure if I've seen him in anything before. But I was worried that Cavill would steal the show or steal scenes because of how famous
He's very
he is.
good at he's very good at fading into the background.
He
if he
really
needs to.
is. And I think, a part of that is the writing. A part of that is how they've written the script and how it's been very focused on Enola, as it should be. But you kind of, Cavill does what he's supposed to do. He brings a lot of eyeballs. I wouldn't have heard about this had I not seen an advertisement on his Instagram. Although eventually, the week that it came out, it was just everywhere online. But, I heard about it first by watching him be interviewed about the upcoming film that he's in. And so that was really cool. But he brings the star power and he gets people's interested. And it's like, well, I like him and that's a really cool role for him. And that sounds like fun. And then he's in it enough for you're like, huh, cool. But he's not in it in an overpowering way. And he doesn't steal scenes. He doesn't dominate in that way.
And that I feel like that's the sign of a really good actor too. That like he's got a good star power, but he also is respectful enough as a human being to not try and wiggle his way into more scenes.
Yeah,
I feel like
he
yes, and he respects the material. He respects the story and how it's not supposed to be about him. And he's a very generous actor. Like there's a thing that I hear a lot from other actors. Like you're a very generous actor if you're able to uplift the other person in your scenes with you. If you're able to uplift the other parts of the film without taking focus away from it. If you can add to it, that's called being you're a very generous actor at that point, or a very generous scene partner. And Henry Cavill just seems like he's very generous with his performances and allowing other people to work off of him in a way that's natural and, lets them shine, but also, not being a wallflower at the same time. Like he still commands a presence, but he doesn't overshadow, which is really important.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. And I think that also, in addition to that, the writing for the characters, they do Sherlock and Mycroft in the movie. They do their job of highlighting the two sides of the big theme for the film, which is a lot of feminist points, women's rights. It's set in 1884. And I think this is the vote that they keep on talking about in the film. But it is the representation of the People Act in 1884. The first of many aimed at getting more equal rights to women in the UK and Europe in terms of voting and jobs and all kinds of stuff. So it's kind of like the start of all this. And so this kind of political thing is happening in the background. But in terms of the social implications of it, Sherlock kind of represents the more understanding, the more caring side of the populace in terms of men that are kind of like have had everything handed to them, right? And then Mycroft is the sterner, more set in his ways older brother that is more concerned about the family's reputation and wants to bottle Enola Holmes up in a corset and a gown and make a lady out of her and send her off to finishing school and all that kind of stuff, to which she wants no part of. And Sherlock is seeing more of himself in Enola and wanting to kind of like bridge that gap and try to figure out like how can I encourage this without also causing a rift between Mycroft and myself, because they at this stage in the game in terms of this story, they certainly portray Sherlock and Mycroft as fairly close brothers. In other versions of the Sherlock story that I've seen, they're usually estranged or certainly don't get along. But this is actually, I think, part of that performance from Henry Cavill, where they approached, both he and the producers on the show approached Sherlock as a little bit more emotional character, like a little bit more identifiable, to the point where the Conan Doyle estate has actually filed a lawsuit against Netflix over the film, claiming it violates copyright by depicting Sherlock Holmes as having emotions. So, really? People are not happy about it. And there was an interview, I don't remember who was asking, because it was, of course, unfortunately on Instagram, and it just kind of flew by. But someone asked, Cavill what he thought about that particular point, and he's like, well, we did our best to portray the character with this kind of like emotional connection, but also maintaining his aloofness and stuff like that, and any other lawsuits is above my pay grade. And I thought, good answer, like as if
good
like
answer.
This is news to me, like I've never heard about this. But the whole thing basically centers around Helena Bonham Carter plays Eudoria Holmes. I can never remember her name. Eudoria Holmes disappears after being very close with Enola. So she disappears into the night with no rhyme or reason. Enola sets off to find her and then becomes a super sleuth, kind of her own right, and unravels a dangerous conspiracy around a mysterious young lord, lord played by Louis Partridge. And that kind of has this kind of neat twist where Enola is trying to find her mom, and that's the mystery that you set off with. But in the process, she also discovers this deeper conspiracy, and then she's having to make the decision to sideline her own quest to then help others. So it's this really great balance of like doing the right thing, doing what's right for you, screwing the system because the system is busted. Like there's just all these great messages that are wrapped up into this. And if you ask me, Millie Bobby Brown and Partridge just steal the show.
Yeah, they're very good. They're very, very good in this film.
He's understated, but I think only because he's meant to be more mousy because he's just infatuated with Enola, but also because she's such a strong talkative character. He just doesn't have as many lines. Because I remember thinking back over the film, like, I don't remember I don't see the character as that memorable, but by the time the movie was over, I was just like, I really enjoyed his performance. It's something that they really do a good job of balancing, his kind of like just being awestruck by this strong, smart, independent whirlwind of a character in Enola. Yeah. And him still playing his own part and standing his own ground and wanting to be a gentleman, but then also, trying to figure out where he fits into all of this. And just, it was really kind of cool to see how he wants no part of his quote unquote destiny. And she wants no part of hers, and that's kind of how they identify with one another. But Bobby Brown really stole the show. They do it in the trailer, so it's not a surprise. But they break the fourth wall, so it has this Ferris Bueller's Day Off to it from the very get go, and it is adorable. It really sets the mood for this is going to be a mystery, but it's going to be something that you don't have to take super seriously, at least not at first. They do less of the fourth wall stuff later in the film. Like third act, there's not a whole lot of it. But in the first and second act, there's all these moments where Enola is conveying the time, the culture, how she feels about it to you, because she can't say it to anybody else without being scolded. And it gives you some of the funniest freaking moments in the film. And sometimes they're not even words. Sometimes it's like some dude says something daft and Enola just kind of gives you a look in the camera as if to say like, for fuck's sakes. Like it's just, and she doesn't swear,
it's very good.
But it's really well done. And I think
she's got some great expressions, that girl. She's got wonderful acting expressions.
And she produced on the show, on the film.
I didn't know that, and I saw that in your notes, and I was like, "That's amazing."
Yeah, and she's 16.
That's amazing.
16.
Yeah.
I usually probably in error lately assume a lot of times when you see kids in television shows or Netflix shows that they're probably playing younger than they actually are in life. But on Stranger Things, all the kids would have been around the right age. Because she's 16 now, which means she would have been 12 or 13 when they started filming Stranger Things. I'm not sure how quickly they pumped those out, but like it's been a few years. So it's, she's obviously kind of come of age acting, but she's not even done high school yet, and she's producing films. Like good for her and doing really well. I can see a lot of, and this has a little bit to do with the fact that they do look a little bit alike, more so when she's like on the red carpet. But I find that she reminds me of Natalie Portman, who is also a very good actor, and I think that Millie Bobby Brown reminds me of Portman, and I think that she's going to do just a lot of really cool stuff, especially if she's creating behind the camera at this stage. Like I can just only imagine the kind of bright career that she's going to have. But it was just fun to watch. Like I really, really did enjoy it. And for people that are wondering, it's based on a series of novels by English author Nancy Springer. She also penned this screenplay So she was involved in the film.
Oh, nice.
And there are 6 books, and we'll have a link to the Goodreads article in the show notes. But so if you're wanting to read more, if you like the movie and you haven't, you didn't know about the books and you want more, well, there's 5 more stories. The film is based on the first story, which is the case of the something Marquess. I can't remember the name. The Case of the Missing Marquess is the name of the first novel, and that's what this film was based on. But I've seen movie reviews where people are suggesting that Millie Bobby Brown is sitting on the top of what could be a small film franchise, and I'd say yes, please make more, because that was it was good. I'm glad it's also not a television series. I like that it's a film.
Yes, yeah, me too. I thought it was a series, and I was gonna watch it with Colin the other day, but he was like, "No, it's a movie." He wasn't sure if he could commit to a movie, which is why I ended up watching it last night. We were gonna watch it on Tuesday, but I really enjoyed it. I do think it felt like it was a little long in parts, though. And again, maybe that's just me being tired. It felt like there was a couple moments where it could have ended.
Yeah,
but maybe that's just my sleepy brain just being like, is it still going? Okay. I felt like there were a couple of spots like that could have been it. That could have been the story. But then it just kept going. And so again, I'm gonna have to give it another watch and make sure that I'm not totally just making that up. But
well, that said, I mean, why don't we get into some spoilers? So for those of you that haven't watched it, I would encourage you to tune out and come back in a few minutes. I don't want to spoil the movie for anybody, but I don't know what spots might be long in the tooth without knowing them specifically. The only thing that I found that was a bit of a complaint for me was probably by design. I found that Minecraft was a one note character. Every time he opened his mouth, he said the exact same thing with different dialogue.
Yeah.
It was quite boring. I mean, a stark difference to Sherlock, who I liked, but it was just this constant. It made you wonder why Sherlock liked him, and they would go for drinks together, and be buddy, because he didn't give you a reason to understand why Sherlock might actually like him,
Right.
Whereas if he had a little bit more of a roundedness to him, I think it would have been a little bit better. And that could have been something simple as just like dialogue with Sherlock and stuff like that. But you don't know what might have hit the cutting room floor. The other criticism that I have is at the very end of the film. Do you remember the dramatic scene in the dark at the mansion?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So spoilers. This is a big spoiler, but I saw that coming a mile away.
That it was the aunt.
No, it was the grandmother. The grandmother, and it wasn't so much that, it was like this very lighthearted, whimsical. Yes, there's some peril, but like you kind of know that it's never gonna be true danger, because of just the nature of who's in it and how it's written and stuff. So at the very end, when the shotgun went off, I knew he wasn't dead. And there was an awful long shot of him ahead of that, looking at the suit of armor next to him. And so he basically, to survive the attack, he put a piece of plate mail underneath his shirt. So when he got shot, he had a bulletproof vest on. And and there's this long emotional scene. That's where it felt long of Enola kind of being very upset that all of her work to protect the young lord was all for naught because he'd shot dead, and he just kind of like sits up, and you're just like, yeah, of course he's not dead. Like, just that kind of thing really drove me nuts. But a small thing, like all of my nitpicks are very, very tiny. Although one thing that I did notice at the very end of the film, which I was surprised to have dawned on me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong because I don't remember seeing it, they never kiss. There's never a big Hollywood kiss, and yet you still feel the emotional, intellectual connection between the two of them. So kudos to them.
He kisses her hand at the very end.
Yeah, through a fence.
And that was like, which was, she had a reaction to that, but it was like, no one just kissed at the time, right?
Yeah,
like there's no...
Exactly.
Especially for teenagers, right? Like, I think what I appreciated about it is that, they're still portraying her as like she's a teenager, she's still young, and they're not like making her grow up too fast. And having to like get married and all this stuff. And like, Mycroft makes that offhanded comedy. It's just like, oh, marry her off. They should, they'll probably, chill out if they were to be married to each other. Not in that way, not in so many words, but the essence is there. And Sherlock is kind of just like, okay, sure. Whatever you say, Mycroft. But yeah, I liked how it wasn't overdone in terms of romance. I really enjoyed that it wasn't overdone.
I really also enjoyed that throughout the film, you start to realize Enola's battle with finding her mother, being a strong, independent, intellectual woman, and fighting the status quo, and then also battling the crush that she's developing on Tewksbury, to the point where there's even some like points where she looks at the camera like, oh God, help me, like shit. Like
what do I do? I think my favorite one was when like she's walking somewhere. I think she's disguised as a boy, and she's like walking down the hallway of the carriage when she first meets him, and then she hears him yelling in the other carriage because like Buddy's trying to kill him.
Oh yes.
And then she actually sighs and like puts her finger up in the camera and be like, 1 second, and then she turns around and goes back, and just the amount of just oh God, what am I getting myself into? It's so good.
Yeah, like if I start down this path, I'm going to have to help him. Like it's just
and
it's
like she just looks so resigned. She's like, okay.
And it's this thing where it's like, I have to do the right thing, and also rolling her eyes like, oh, boys, even though she's been sheltered and she doesn't know any boys.
No, exactly.
So her first
like
thing,
she knows, but I feel like that's what like her mother like taught her that right away.
Yeah.
Like, she knows.
There are some comments to that later in the film where they're doing flashbacks of Enola painting with Eudoria, and she's saying like, never do this, never do that, especially make sure you're doing your own thing and make sure no one's copying you, especially men. Like she's very very stern about that kind of stuff. I really enjoyed all of those feminist beats that are well placed, and they don't beat you over the head with it. And I'm stealing that quote from a text from Hannah because it's one of the things that she really liked about the film too. And it's true. Like it's not preachy. And it's a really good, strong message. And the only thing that I would say is that I wish I could recommend it for younger viewers, but there's a lot of violence and a lot of things like I wouldn't be comfortable recommending it to anybody under 13. Because like there's a point where a grown man is trying to kill Enola multiple times. Yes,
that's scary.
Film.
That was actually a very scary thing. And I think, I don't know, just because I'm watching it as I mean, that's a scary thing to watch anyway. But as like, a woman who, has had not some super great experiences as a teenager, like that was scary. That was a scary thing to watch. And, I am surprised she wasn't more. She was very brave while it was happening, but I'm surprised she wasn't more affected by it. You know what I mean? Like
shaken by it, yeah.
I'm glad she wasn't, but at the same time, like that sort of thing can stay with you for a long time, and maybe that just kind of is proving her resilience. But the fact that she seems so nonplussed about it after the fact, not nonplussed, I shouldn't say that, but like it's never really brought up again as like something that has affected her, really.
I think one of the strengths there is that the film really takes place over a couple of days. Like it's not a long period of time. So I think the shell shock doesn't actually wear off. Like she might not have time to process it.
Right.
The biggest fast forward in time we get is at the very end, between when they wrap everything up and the mystery is solved. And then there's the last kind of like, is it epilogue? No. Yeah, epilogue. Where she's basically back to talking to the camera, wrapping up the story and saying, be true to yourself and all that kind of stuff. And they have that scene with Tewksbury through the fence. But like there was some time passing there because like she's cleaned up, he's cleaned up, his hair is a little bit longer. Like they've done a bunch of stuff that passed time, but it's not a long time because the vote is still happening. And that's kind of one of the major, keys of everything. She does end up finding her mother, which is a really nice scene too. And it's really odd how they explain why the mother kind of scoffed off in the middle of the night, but
yeah, they didn't really explain that, really, did they?
They didn't explain it, and I don't necessarily think I need all of the I's dotted and the T's crossed. They basically...
I did.
Oh,
I wanted it.
The line that you get from Enola Holmes is that I didn't want to leave, but in order to achieve what I wanted to achieve for women's suffrage, I had to protect you. And basically knowing how smart you were, the less that you knew, the better. Because it means that I can keep you out of it and keep you out of harm's way is essentially what's happening. But ironically, she ended up putting her in harm's way with this dude that was trying to kill both her and the young lord.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I did.
Yeah, so I mean, that felt like a really empty answer. And like, I personally, like, you know, if you have such a good relationship with your mom and she just screws off one day on your birthday, no less.
Yeah.
Which, you know, and this shows up and was just like, I just had to go to protect you. I'd be like, that's stupid.
Yeah.
Like, why? You couldn't have told me about it. You couldn't have brought me with you. You couldn't have. Clearly, you think I'm smart enough. So, like, why couldn't you trust that I was smart enough to understand and to help you with this thing?
Yeah. Left enough clues.
That's how I would have taken it. Yeah.
I guess at a certain
like,
point, though, it just becomes like, well, if she did all that, then there wouldn't be a film, right? Like, you get to the point where she's the oomph to get out the door, but very quickly, within the first act, you're no longer looking for Enola Holmes. You're trying to figure out this new Tewkesbury problem. Like it overlaps.
And I get that. I definitely get that. But I found that, like, because her mother missing was the catalyst for everything.
Yeah.
It felt like that. I feel like that should have been resolved. Like, you know, you can definitely have like it would have been really interesting if the mother was involved in this whole plot, or like also trying to stop the plot to kill this kid, to have it kind of come full circle.
Yeah.
That would have been really neat to have her involved in some way, because having it just be a catalyst for her to leave and then get like a tiny little clarification at the end is like, okay, well, that feels kind of cheap. Like, I feel like it would have been more clever if it would all been tied in together in some way.
I agree. Yeah.
And it felt very disjointed at that point. So it felt like, well, we're looking for her mom. Why do we care about this kid? And clearly it's a bigger plot. Like, clearly it's, you know, it's a much larger thing.
Yeah.
But, you know, had her mother also been involved, or if her mother had known about it, and like all the clues that, you know, like her mother was like trying to help Enola solve this bigger thing, you know, like maybe she heard about the plot and was trying to get Enola to, like, you know, help her out with solving part of it or something. That would have been really interesting, but it just felt it was two separate things that, you know, just, I don't know. It was good, but it felt a little bit messy at times.
Or if Eudora was trying to solve or trying to help the family and the father who was murdered, the Tewkesbury's father, and failed. And then Enola succeeded where Eudora failed. That would have been a nice tie-in.
Yes.
Too. But I agree. I agree that just the one-line wrap-up is a little weak sauce. The other thing that I found pulled me out of it from time to time, and this is just because I kind of know what's going on, and it's not at all a criticism. I found it more amusing for myself personally. But every time that Cavill was on screen, I just kind of scoffed at how they had to pour him into all the period outfits, because they're not meant for, like, the design and the period outfits back then were just not meant for Superman. Or, well, in this case, The Witcher,
of Cavill's size.
He's a big dude now. And
yeah, he's so big.
And when you put him in suits that have like tight waistcoats and like all this kind of stuff, like, I don't think he could raise his arms above his head. Like, it was pretty funny to see. And so that kind of stuff, it didn't bother me. It just kind of pulled me out of it and thought, like, yeah, that's going to be a funny thing that they talk about in all the interviews when they talk to him about the promotion of the show. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I really highly recommend it. It is rated PG-13, which doesn't surprise me. There was a part actually where I recoiled, which is the death of the hitman at the end.
Oh yeah,
violent.
That actually got me. I was just like, ooh, okay. Yeah. I was like, oh shit. I was actually very, very stunned.
Yeah, I'm surprised that wasn't more of like a silhouette or something. It wasn't gory. It was just very abrupt and graphic. And obviously, the thing I find these days now is they can do so much with CG that it no longer goes, oh yeah, okay, that was a practical effect. Obviously that wasn't real, to the point where it's so visceral right now. It's like, oh crap, that was, yeah, I was not expecting it to go that way. just because of the nature of things. Because you're also not expecting Enola to kill anybody, right? And it's not. It's self-defense, and he fell, but and he's been trying to murder them the entire film. So it's not like he's a nice guy. You're not, worried about this asshole hitman who barely has any lines. He's quite scary, actually. But it's also just not something you're expecting from this film, right? Like, you expect danger and gunshots when it happens, but you expect them to do what they do, which is to ricochet off stuff and create chase, not there's some fisticuffs and there's some boxing and stuff like that, but you don't expect there to be homicide, well, not homicide, but you don't expect there to be any kind of death. You expect there to be a murder that's been solved, and that person then goes into handcuffs and everybody's taken away at the end of the day. Like, I would have fully expected the grandmother and this hitman to be arrested, right? That was the outcome I was expecting. Not the grandmother obviously was. Well, they never show her, but obviously the problem was solved. But then but the hitman was killed. It's like, oh wow, that was violent. So there's a little bit of that was a little bit shocking. But other than that, like I said, just really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was great. I had a good time with it. Highly recommend. Go watch it.
The other thing that I have the time to talk about this week is Castlevania. I will keep it brief because, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of nice things to say. I watched the first season, or almost the first season, and I'm chalking it up to just anime and just not being my thing all the time. So surprising no one, I don't really like it and probably won't continue with it.
That's fair.
I just find that it relies for folks having too much knowledge or nostalgia for the Castlevania games, which I don't.
So that's interesting because I didn't know anything about it, and I found it. Yeah, I didn't know anything about the games at all. So I knew that they were based off of games, but I felt like this was enough for me personally to understand it. Yeah,
I think the biggest gripes for me are like the most compelling character is Dracula, and he's barely in it, and then. I'm not sure.
I did find that too.
Yeah, and then I'm not sure what I'm supposed to think about Trevor Belmont, but he's an ass, and in every conversation he's the same. He says the same thing every time. Now there are some cool fight scenes and stuff, but like that's not enough for me to hold a plot together. And the problem that I have with it, and why I actually watched more than just 1.5, is that they did present at least an interesting world by the time you get into it, because you've got speakers and you've got the Christian church, which is a very different Christian church, and then you've got the Catholic church, and then you've got Dracula, but Dracula's not, he's a vampire, but he's a different kind of vampire. Like he's got like mystical powers, and he's almost like an evil wizard. Like he's not just a blood-sucking, immortal.
Yeah. And that was like a lot of the original lore around Dracula.
Yeah.
In the beginning,
so that kind of stuff I thought was really cool. And I mean, in some cases when they animate special effects, and Dracula was also the best animated, in all of the characters. So whenever he was on screen, it was really fun to watch because he was always doing something cool with like fire or some effect or some creepy way that he was moving. And there was a lot of care put into that. But very quickly, the other characters are just like really poorly designed and animated, or so tropey, like the gutter trash people that are talking in the bar when you first meet Trevor Belmont. Like they've got the typical kind of like street British accent, even though everybody's supposed to be from Western Europe, and the lip sync is off, the character designs are terrible, the dialogue is wooden and just makes no like. And I get that they're drunk and they're supposed to be kind of annoying, but it's just to the point where like, well, you've said the same thing 6 times. Like you're not, like, I'm not sure how often he talked about the Belmont family or how often he needed to say Belmont with a snap in his tongue. Was like, I get it. You're lower class and you don't like the upper class. Like, holy fuck, move on. And so that I found really tedious. And especially because the fight was like, you're expecting Belmont to then kick everybody's butt and fight back, and then he just keeps on getting punched. It's like, well, because you're not moving. It felt like a very odd, forced kind of scene. It's all set in the 1400s, 1455, 1475, that kind of range. And I thought the plot of them murdering Dracula's wife because she's a scientist and they called her a witch, and that sparks the wrath of Dracula, was a cool twist and a neat thing. I don't know why Dracula gave them a year Like that just seemed arbitrarily and dumb. Like, just how is he?
Yeah.
How is he's this mad? How is he not this mad right now? Like, I don't understand
Right.
why it's just not all coming right this second. Um, and that kind of stuff was cool too, because like these demons it's vicious. Like, they're ripping people apart. It's a gory show. Like, there's
Oh yes,
one demon.
it doesn't hold back.
No, one demon flies away with an infant in its teeth. Like, it's not a easy watch in some places. I mean, it's animated, so it's not like, it's not like, it doesn't have that effect where it, like, you feel like it's real, but it's just, even just drawn gore stuff. I feel like they even get away with more in cartoons than they can
In real life,
yeah. But then that leads into the other issue I have with the wooden dialogue, is that a lot of people are talking and using modern slang or modern swear words, and it just, and yet it's all set in the late 1400s. Like, but no one's gonna say fuck this and shit that all the time. And so it's just, it kind of has this unfortunate, like, we want this to appeal to people that just don't normally hear swears in cartoons, so we're just going to kind of make this for this target, audience. And not to criticize, your like the show, but I just kind of feel like they ham-fisted a lot, and it did not deliver enough on the other side of it for me to just say, yeah, okay, fine, I'm on board regardless. And
you don't have to like it just because I suggest something either. Right?
Well, but you're not the only one. Like, I've had it recommended by a number of people. So that's why I thought there might be something to it. But yeah, like,
I definitely will say I enjoyed the second season more than I enjoyed the first one. So when I went, like, the first one, I was kind of just like, yeah, I liked it. And, I think, Colin and I, when we first started dating, this is kind of what we just wanted to find something to watch. And that was kind of just it. And it seemed interesting enough for us to keep watching it. So, but I mean, like, I don't find the first season was particularly memorable for me. But the second season I actually enjoyed quite a bit. And it felt like it was more intense. Like, there's a character named Hector.
Right.
I think he's human, and he works for Dracula or with Dracula. And he's, like, in charge of, like, making demons or something. He basically, like, takes bodies and turns them into monsters. He's kind of gross. But he has, a very, very interesting. He's kind of full of himself. He's got a bit of, like, a holier than thou sort of personality, and is kind of a dickhead. So he's, in the second season, he's taken prisoner by some vampires, and there's one vampire named Lenore, and I love her. She looks so cute. Like, she's tiny, and she's got beautiful long red hair, and she's dressed in, like, very fancy dresses, and she's very, very, like, very well spoken and very soft, and she looks like a little porcelain doll. But she fucks him up. Mm-hmm. In, like, in a really interesting way. Like, she's very, very calculated, and but at first glance, like, she looks, like, her design, she looks beautiful, but, like, she's ruthless at the same time, and I really, really enjoy her. And there's not enough of her. I don't think she's even in the first season at all.
No.
Or if she is, she's in it in passing. So I definitely, like, what made me be like, yeah, I like the show is the second season. I definitely liked it a lot more. But I get not wanting to continue to watch it. It was more, again, one of those things that was like, I just need to watch something, and, just to have something to watch, and then second season was when I was just like, all right, I see it. I see why people are into this.
Is the second season longer?
Actually, I don't know. I don't think so. I think
4 episodes.
I think they kept it relatively. Yeah, I think they kept it relatively tight as they did before. But the episodes, I think, are longer.
So the first season, they're 22 to 30 minutes max, and there's only 4 of them. So if for people on the fence, it's a low time investment. It's not like you have big seasons, and there's no filler in terms of, like, an episode about some stupid shit that you don't care about. Like, it's a story, and I may even, just for the sake of completionism, finish the first season, because it's only another 20 minutes. Like, I could probably put it on while I cook, because it hasn't warranted my full attention. But, like, if I just want to know what the heck happens in this town of Gresham or something, then I can at least stomach Trevor Belmont long enough to find out whether or not the the speaker monks survive. You know, like it's because again, like there's enough of a world presented that's neat, and demons are weird looking and stuff I've never seen, and they put twists on certain things, like Cyclops is a different beast than what you'd normally think of from mythology. Like there's all this kind of neat stuff that they put in there.
Yeah. Sorry, it was season 3. I mean, I remember watching. I think I've blended in seasons 2 and 3 together. Season 3 has 10 episodes, and again, they're only half an hour, and I think that's the one that I really distinctly remember. That one has a lot of Lenore. Season 2 also has her, but I think it's got much more. It's got a lot more Alucard and Carmilla. It's because Dracula is out of the picture in season 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think Carmilla, because Carmilla's trying to start a war,
right?
With, like different vampire clans and humans, and so that one is kind of like, you know, the war on humans from the vampires and them trying to stop it. And season 3 is kind of the after effect of that, but like, you know, you get prisoners of war out of it. But it was definitely once I got past I think partially through season 2 is when I was like much more invested in it. Like I was, you know, the first season, like, you know, and which is fair. Like I watched it because it was, you know, it was there, it was on, and I liked looking at it. It looked decent. It was pretty, and like, you know, it looked nice for me.
There are some shots that I think it does look really good. Like there are some sequences and some backgrounds and some establishing situations and design things that I think are very, very well done. I think you mentioned last episode about it being elegant, and there's in some ways when they portray certain characters, they do it in a way that's, as you said, like it has, well, I mean, it much either taken inspiration from, or just because it's about demons and the church and stuff like that. It has a Diablo vibe. Like it has that kind of like a warm but evil, you know, fire and brimstone and soft, you know, evil conversations with clergy. Like there's that kind of tone to it, and the way that they light those scenes is usually dramatic and can be very cool. But I find that it's better sometimes as stills, because sometimes when they start to move in those animated scenes, like some of the draftsmanship, I was like, wow, okay, how did that make it onto screen? But it's
so you have more of an eye for that than I do.
Yeah.
So
oh yes, and I
don't recognize, but I do distinctly remember the production value being upped from seasons 2 and 3 from season 1. Like season 3, I think when I say elegance, what I'm immediately thinking of season 3, and I'm thinking of all the scenes with Lenore and her sisters, and like just the way that they're animated and everything is animated in with scenes with, again, Lenore is my favorite character, so like everything I'm thinking of is mostly about her. She is just very elegant looking, and everything around their environment is all very elegant looking. So I think that's when I say elegant, that's what I mean. But it also is very gory. But the design of the characters is very, again, it's still anime, but it's not like, you know what I mean when I say it's not overtly anime. It's not like,
it's not the cartoony anime with the big mouths and the weird little, you know.
It's definitely a lot softer.
I can't
but still definitely anime.
I don't know enough about anime to even say like what the substyles are, but this reminds me a lot of like the Robotech and the 80s anime that I would be aware of when I was growing up, and things that just have like the dudes usually have like pointy chins and long noses and long eyelashes, and then not that there aren't very many women so far in the show that I've seen, but those that have been in the show, they do look kind of samey, you know, compared to one another. But it's not the big-eyed like anime character. Like it's not that.
Yeah, well, it's not cute.
No,
it's not like
a
cutesy girl.
Yeah, I mentioned Genshin Impact earlier today, and it's not that. Like it's the other thing. It's not the Sailor Moon style. It's like something else. Like they go in a different direction, and that could just be because it's aimed at older viewers and things like that. But I find like all the secondary characters, it's like they're the exact opposite. Like they're all lumpy. Like it's, if you're
I'm not sure which ones you're talking
so
about.
Secondary characters, the ones like the people that get beat up in the bar, the talking, the speakers, the bishop, like all the bishop's priests.
That's done on purpose to
Yeah.
let you know that they're not important.
Yeah, they're
I
not
think
important.
That's
They're
the
the
thing in
bad
anime
guys.
to
Like,
be
yeah.
like, if they're the bad guys, or
Yeah.
if they don't look pretty, they're not important.
Not important. Yeah, I definitely got that.
And that's just an anime thing.
Yeah.
This has always been an anime thing. I think immediately there's one anime that I don't know if I love it, but I think I like it purely for the nostalgia of it. In Japanese it would be called Saint Seiya. In English it would have been known as Knights of the Zodiac. But all like the main knights are very like beautiful men with long flowing hair and like chiseled chins and faces and noses and abs up the wazoo, and then you get all the other guys who are like, well, they're gonna die because they all look like shit.
Yeah.
Right.
They're
not the important ones.
The dude with the double chin and the weird pedophile mustache is like, well, you're not going to last
or
very
like
long.
no teeth.
Yeah.
Like a crooked nose and no teeth and a mohawk, right? Like, that kind of thing.
Yeah. No,
Right.
I've seen those tropes before. So, well, that brings us to the end of this episode of the Citadel Cafe. You can find more information about the show and links to some of the things that Megan and I talked about today at thecitadelcafe.com. Music for the show was composed by Kevin MacLeod. You can email the show at thecitadelcafe@gmail.com or find us by name on Twitter. Subscribe for free on iTunes, Android, Stitcher, Spotify, and YouTube. But word of mouth is the easiest way to support the show. Just tell friends about the podcast and where they can go to listen to it. You'd be surprised how far that goes. If you would like to go even farther and support the show, you can visit Patreon. That's patreon.com/thecitadelcafe. You may have heard no advertisements. That's because we're 100% listener supported. And I'm looking to grow the membership and grow the kind of things that we do with the Patreon. So a little while ago on the Discord, which is one of the rewards you get for joining the Patreon, I was talking in the Town Hall channel and asking for some feedback about some potential goals and ideas to expand on the community. And some of the things that were put forward were recording the podcast live in the Discord with a live chat, which would be very cool. More regular roundtable episodes. Those would be episodes like with special topics or more than one co-host. We do them at Christmas. We've done them for things like Endgame, things like that. Quarterly hangouts or town hall hangouts, and a Citadel Cafe book club and or movie club. These are all ideas. I'm going to be fleshing them out and pushing them up on the Patreon page as I find that they'll work with the budget of the show. But if you'd like to help out, that again is patreon.com/thecitadelcafe. My name is Joel Duggan. You can find everything I'm doing online, including my illustration and design portfolio at joelduggan.com. If you are interested in working with me, then just drop me a line through the site. You can also check out my other podcast all about Minecraft at thespawnchunks.com, where we are busy talking about the Caves and Cliffs update. You can also follow me on social media at Joel Duggan, and of course, find me on twitch.tv/Joel Duggan, where I'm probably going to be moving on from No Man's Sky in the near future back to Minecraft, but adding something else, and I'm not sure what. If you have ideas, let me know. Megan, where can people find you online?
People can find me online on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch at Megan Townsend.
You've been listening to the Citadel Cafe, where we are fast, easy, and cheap, but you can only pick two.